In the 19th century, with the US distracted by civil war, France eyed Mexico as a new imperial jewel. What if this powerful nation hadn't just intervened, but successfully conquered and held Mexico, reshaping a continent? And let's find the answer to the question, what if? Nouvelle-France de Mexico would emerge as a true imperial jewel, founded on direct French governance. Instead of a fleeting puppet emperor, Paris would establish a comprehensive colonial administration, much like French Indochina or Algeria, creating prefectures and departments directly controlled from the metropolis. This ensured an iron grip over the territory. Mexico's abundant resources, from its legendary silver mines to fertile lands yielding cash crops like coffee and sugar, and even emerging oil reserves, would be systematically reoriented. Infrastructure, notably railroads and ports, would be developed primarily to facilitate the efficient extraction and transport of these raw materials back to France, serving metropolitan economic needs. Crucially, local autonomy and national identity would be vigorously suppressed. The existing federal structure of the former Mexican Republic would be dismantled, with indigenous and mestizo cultures systematically marginalized. French language, law, and social norms would be rigorously imposed, thus forging a new, deeply Gallicized national identity. The establishment of Nouvelle-France de Mexico would dramatically shift North American geopolitics, effectively dismantling the Monroe Doctrine. A formidable French presence directly south of the United States would necessitate a complete overhaul of US foreign policy, potentially leading to a heavily militarized southern border and earlier diplomatic or even military confrontations. America's cherished vision of manifest destiny would be severely curtailed. French control would block vital westward expansion to the Pacific and impede access to Central America, forcing the US to redirect its ambitions or face new flashpoints. Furthermore, France's success would embolden other European powers to revisit their own colonial dreams in the Americas, transforming the hemisphere into a highly contested zone where European influence openly challenged US hegemony. This new reality would usher in an era of heightened international scrutiny and involvement, fundamentally altering the global balance of power. Under French imperial rule, Mexican society would undergo a profound reshaping. French would become the undisputed language of power, administration, and higher education, systematically eroding Spanish and indigenous languages. Catholic schools, repurposed and reinforced, would actively promote French cultural values and historical narratives, subtly reshaping national identity. Socially, a rigid, stratified hierarchy would crystallize. French administrators and settlers would occupy the pinnacle, forming an elite class. Below them, a small, collaborating Mexican elite might enjoy certain privileges, acting as intermediaries. However, the vast majority of indigenous and mestizo populations would find themselves relegated to the lowest social strata, primarily for labor and resource extraction. Yet this imposition would not go unchallenged. Despite French military might, persistent indigenous and republican rebellions would emerge. Pockets of guerrilla warfare, alongside determined cultural preservation movements and nationalist uprisings, would become a constant, draining challenge for the French, perhaps even serving as an inspiration for resistance movements in other colonies across the globe. In this altered timeline, French Mexico would be meticulously engineered as a colossal resource colony. Its abundant natural wealth, including vast mineral deposits, lush timber, rubber, and agricultural products like coffee and sugar, would relentlessly fuel France's burgeoning industrial revolution and wider imperial projects. This steady supply would grant Paris a significant, perhaps insurmountable economic edge over European rivals. Crucially, any local industrial development within Mexico would be severely restricted to basic processing for export, deliberately preventing the emergence of an independent manufacturing sector and cementing its economic subservience to the metropolis. Infrastructure, such as railroads and port facilities, would be constructed with a singular purpose: to efficiently extract and transport these raw materials directly to French markets, rather than to stimulate internal commerce or foster genuine local development. Mexico's destiny would be irrevocably tied to serving the imperial core. France's imperial zenith would be undeniable. With a vast, resource-rich American territory, its geopolitical leverage, economic power, and military might would surge dramatically, potentially altering the outcomes of future European conflicts like the Franco-Prussian War, or even significantly shifting the alliances and battlefields of World War I, establishing France as a truly dominant global power. However, the struggle for Mexican independence would likely be a protracted, violent affair, mirroring 20th century Algerian or Indochinese wars of liberation. nation. This intense fight would profoundly shape global decolonization movements, creating new powerful precedents for colonial resistance worldwide. Consequently, this French-Mexico would engineer a profoundly different North American continent, impacting everything from trade routes to cultural exchanges, fostering new alliances and rivalries that would entirely reshape the 20th century, leading to a truly altered global order. French rule in Mexico would have rewritten global history, creating a contested North America and reshaping geopolitics. In your opinion, what if France invaded Mexico? Share your thoughts in the comments.